Hey y'all, welcome to Midweek Minis, the show where the format is changing and we're not quite sure what it's going to be. I'm Mitch Lawrence and that's my wife Leah Lawrence.
Hey y'all.
And we're super excited to bring you something new, something different. Maybe not new, but different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, well what do you think we're going to do this week, Leah?
Well, I do have a listener email that I plan on reading to begin with, because that's how I would love to start out all of these midweek minis, is with input and information from you all. So if anybody has a story pertaining to what we talk about today, or just a random story that they want to put in the email address, just email it to me. I'd be happy to read it on air as long as it is not that bad. I don't know. Graphic, grotesque. There's a line. I'm sure I'll know it when I see it. Yeah. But, just don't cross the metaphorical line, and I'll probably read it on air if that is something that you would be okay with. And if it's not okay, you can still email me. Just tell me not to read it on air. That's fine, too.
Well, that's a good point. I think what we want to do is just turn these into little bitty mini-sodes where we just tell a quick story. Both of us will each have something, like I already have a couple of ideas to come up with soon, something that wouldn't fill an entire episode or half of an episode or a Patreon episode, just something quick and easy. And I like the idea of whatever we talk about this week, send us in stories or just comments or whatever about what we talk about, and we'll talk about that next week. We'll open the show with those comments.
Stuff that you're interested in, that kind of thing. Because like I said, like Mitch said, I have lots and lots of weird little obsessions and interests in strange things that I remember and retain from my entire life of reading way too many weird books and watching way too many weird documentaries. So I think this is a really healthy, interesting way to get it out of my system. And it's something that a lot of the things that I'm interested in didn't happen in the geographical region that our show focuses on. So this is just a little midweek, a little short thing where literally we could talk about anything remotely sort of tangentially related to the bizarre, the creepy, the strange, the interesting, the morbid, whatever. Just something weird. That's what Wednesdays are for now. So, if you like this format, awesome. Let us know. If you hate it and you would rather have the question and answer thing back, submit questions. Yeah. That's all I got, man.
We don't have questions. We don't have things to answer.
To talk about. Yeah. So, and maybe we do this, and maybe every so often we'll do a question and answer show if anybody's interested in questions and answers from us. But if not, let's just give this a shot. Just a little Wednesday, interesting, strange thing. Hopefully it won't go over maybe 30 minutes. Sometimes it might. I don't know. I get long-winded about certain things. But, so let's start out with our email. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. So this email was from the beginning of the month because, Anyway, this is from Jessica, who seems to be a new listener. All right. It says, "Hey, friends, I've only been listening for a few weeks, but I'm hooked. Yay.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyway, I found y'all from your crossover with Associates Anonymous podcast. Hey. Love them. Anyway.
That was a great
It was a great crossover. Anyway.
I enjoyed myself.
Me too. They're great folks. Anyway, today I listened to your episode number 276 about the secret city of Oak Ridge and was very excited as I grew up right next to it. My dad currently works at Y12 in town, which was also mentioned in the episode. Y'all nailed the story, and I also wanted to share that the county I grew up in was Campbell County, where Stinking Creek is located. I know you aren't doing the funny place names now, but if you ever go back and y'all haven't done this one already, P.S. we have, episode 63. Anyway, now you'll have one in your arsenal to save you the trouble of how it got the name. There are two theories. Once again, we've been over this, but I think it's funny, so I'm going to read the rest of this email.
Okay.
Let's see. First is that the creek is a sulfur spring, so it naturally smells like farts, which is accurate.
Interesting. So does our house.
Shut up. The other theory for the creek's name is attributed to the many animal deaths during an unusually cold winter, resulting in a stinky springtime in 1779 to 1780. Lastly, I just wanted to share my favorite sassy Southern saying from my grandma. It's obvious, but it's a real hoot.
Okay.
He, and the quote is, in quotes, he ain't got the sense God gave a goose, which obviously means you're dumb. I think
I've heard various sayings about goose shit.
No.
But that's about it.
No, I've heard this one before.
Okay.
But anyway, it says you're dumb. Yeah. And then I think the reason I love it so much is because it was regularly used towards my sister. Anywho, keep up the good work and stay safe, Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. That was wonderful.
That was very nice. I enjoyed that a lot.
Me too.
Yeah. Is it surprising to you that I don't remember talking about that place at all? Does that surprise you?
The nuclear facility in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oak Ridge that, did all of the research so that they could, make the atomic bomb?
Not ringing any bells.
Nope, nothing? Okay.
Nothing. I'm telling you, I hear these stories once, listen to the episode, and then it is as if it never happened. If it wasn't recorded, this is actually why we started doing this, so that when I'm senile in 3 years, I can go back and remember the good times Leah and I had.
Oh my God. I'm haunted by these things. I can't forget any of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I feel that my brain is going the way of the dodo. Does that count? That's probably not a saying.
It is, but, in Animal Crossing, the airline is run by a pair of brother dodos, so...
Oh, that's sad.
It's real cute.
Oh, man.
They have a seaplane.
Well, wonderful. What are we doing now, Leah?
All right, well, I think we should go into our topic.
Okay, what's our topic?
Evening. Okay, so just for the first one, I thought we could talk about Ouija boards.
Okay. I've never experienced a Ouija board, period.
Okay, have you ever,
I've seen them.
Well, I mean, obviously, everybody's seen one eventually. But when you were a kid, was it something that you were, like, told not to touch and not to look at and not to play with? Or was it just like, whatever?
No. None of that ever happened. I don't believe it ever came up. I really don't think so. I mean,
you were never at, like, a sleepover at someone's house and someone pulled out a Ouija board or something?
No. We had fun at parties I went to. But no, that was it.
Okay.
Sorry for the silence there, but
wow.
I thought you were going to go. But I think you were just so in shock.
I just thought you would have something interesting or enlightening to say, but just a hard no. Just
not hard.
Was not a part of my childhood whatsoever.
An open no. It was not experienced. I'm not closed off to, like, I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think it's silly. But, past that, I don't have any experience with a Ouija board.
Well, do you know anything about them?
Yeah, it's a board with a little lens thing, and it supposedly moves, but it's always one person moving it. But, beside that, that's it. That's everything I know. Okay,
so I'll just go over a brief history of some of the stuff that I know about it, and then I can tell you a little bit more about, my experiences with them, etc. So yeah, what we call a Ouija board, did you know that Ouija is actually a registered trademark of Hasbro? And so it's like Kleenex or Popsicle or whatever. Like the general word of it is actually, a trademark. So that belongs to Hasbro. So if you are not using a Hasbro board, or if you make one of yourself, one for yourself, it would be referred to as a talking board and not a Ouija board, because Ouija is in fact trademarked.
Of course it is.
Yeah, so it was kind of, it got popular in the spiritualist movement sort of in Ohio in the 1860s and into the 1880s. But it wasn't actually patented until 1890, I think, by a guy named Elijah Bond.
Okay.
And he was just a businessman that had sort of a novelty company, and he was like, I could sell these things, pretty easily. It was just marketed as a parlor game, just like a, ask questions, see what the board spells out kind of thing. And obviously most of you listening will know what one looks like, but it is just a regular board. It has the alphabet from A to Z on it, generally the digits, so 1 through 9 and 0 on the end. It's got sort of an open eye on one side, a closed eye on the other. yes, no, hello, goodbye. That kind of thing. Pretty standard layout for a lot of stuff like that. And like I said, it was just sold as a toy. Eventually, it ended up getting sold to, I believe, the Kennard Novelty Company. And then Milton Bradley. Anyway, down the line, it ends up as a property of Hasbro. And Hasbro is still making these things.
Of course.
Yeah. And like I said, you can go buy this thing that is supposedly, according to, I don't know, a lot of the churches that I attended, you know, a portal to hell for like $19.95, and the planchette glows in the dark. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm okay.
Yeah. So, to me, growing up, my parents never said anything about them to me because I don't think that was ever... Like, I rarely ever went over to people's houses because I was very paranoid about that kind of thing. I was one of those kids that did not like socially interacting with other people's families because I thought other people's families were weird, which...
They are.
They are. Everybody's family's weird. That's what makes them other people's families, you know?
I was thinking today about how everybody's different families have, like, a different smell. I was thinking about that today. You know what I mean? Like, you walk into a house and you go, oh, that's never been in my nose before. What is that? Again, ours is mostly fart.
It's garlic and farts, y'all.
That's what our house smells like.
That is not accurate. I keep nice candles and stuff, but
we haven't burned them in months because people haven't been over.
Well, yeah, but anyway. Generally, it smells nice in here.
Generally, it's candles kind of in the picture of garlic and farts. But no, like...
Y'all, we are not as gross as Mitchell makes us out to be.
We are. When you went to a friend's house as a kid, did you not walk in and go, why do I smell this? What is this?
Occasionally. But for me, I was a very picky eater, but I was also one of those people that would, like, eat anything that was in front of me if someone else gave it to me because, like, I wanted to people please. I wanted to be, like...
I'm not even talking about food.
Really,
I'm talking about the smell of their house.
I understand, but I'm saying the reason I didn't ever, like to go over their people's houses was like that. Just that whole situation made me uncomfortable. I can count on maybe one hand how many different families that I actually would go.
How many different families you've smelled in your life?
in other people's houses, like, and I still, know all of those people very well. Like they were the chosen few, and I've kept them. You know what I mean?
Tell them by smell.
I know what they smell like, and I've decided to keep them. No, So like I said, I didn't really go over to people's houses a lot and get into any kind of, slumber party situations like a lot of people end up using their Ouija board the first time kind of thing. So that was never an issue for me, but it was never something that like my parents ever purchased.
Yeah. This is Leah claiming she didn't go to slumber parties because of Ouija boards.
No. I didn't go to slumber parties because I didn't like people. And people didn't generally like me either, so it was fun.
You were also very scared of Ouija boards.
But, it was that whole thing that I heard other people, especially like girls at church, talking about slumber parties that they went to. And, they played light as a feather, stiff as a board, and you're not supposed to do that. And,
why?
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
Because it's satanic of some sort. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Why? What is it? Because I'm generally asking.
Have you never heard of that?
I'm genuinely asking why that's satanic.
Because it's drawing upon some other spirit to lift someone. I really don't know.
It's not, though.
Once again, I was never one of those people.
It's not a spirit. You're right, though. That is anti-God.
Yes.
You're right.
But, I was never in one of those situations because, once again, I was not popular. No one ever really invited me to those things, and I wouldn't have gone if I had been invited to those things. Mm-hmm. So my experience on something like that is incredibly limited, but it was just a general, like, Ouija boards were scary to me until maybe I got into college.
Yeah, of course.
And then one of my sorority sisters had one. And...
It's like... Just her and you alone. Should we play with the Ouija board? Yes. And it's like, should we make out? And it's just kind of like one of you is pushing it to yes, the other one's pushing it to no. No. This is what I envision happens in sororities.
It's not at all.
I'm pretty sure.
No. We like I said, we were living in one of the most haunted buildings on campus at the time, and her and her roommate, who was also one of our sorority sisters, we were all just sitting there, and we had already played all the board games that they would play with me, because they stopped playing Smartass with me because
you're so good at it.
No, because anyway, they don't like to play that game with me.
Leo generally wins trivia games, and so she likes to be pompous about it and say, people won't play with me.
They really won't, though, and I like playing. I like the little donkeys in Smartass. They're really cute. Anyway.
They're just cardboard cutouts. We could make those.
Yeah, but if I'm not lapping them around the board, what's the point?
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway.
You're right. You win.
Can I keep going, please?
If you have to.
I mean, I can stop if you want me to.
No, I want to hear about your Ouija board experience.
Okay. So, yeah, we had a whole stack of board games that we would just play occasionally. Other sisters would come in and bring board games, just whatever. And so we were looking through the pile of board games, and there was a Ouija board, and I was like, really? You've got a Ouija board? I've literally never touched one of these things because, you know, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and apparently that's of the devil. And she's like, I mean, yeah. I got it at a yard sale, and I was like, oh, great. Even better. Secondhand Ouija board.
Yeah, it's probably missing pieces.
Well, there's only the two pieces, so we were set.
I know, that's why it's funny.
But anyway.
I've got a Ouija board, but I only have the lens thing.
So we were like, all right, you want to get it out and use it? And I said, I don't know about this. And she said, come on. And I was like, okay, sure, no problem. Let's do it. So I was feeling badass and rebellious as a freshman, and I was like, okay, let's play this Ouija board. So the three of us and it was a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board at that.
Ooh,
and the
shit.
planchette was glow-in-the-dark, so you could actually play it in the dark, which made it creepier. So we turned off the lights, and we all, like, put a finger on it like you're supposed to. And we literally sat in the dark for 20 minutes giggling at each other, and not a damn thing happened.
Yeah, because you just sat there with it, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you treat it like a magic 8-ball. You're like, you know, should we kiss each other? Take turns?
Mitchell,
and
it
then
doesn't
you see what happens.
It never turns out like you think it turns out. We were literally just sitting in a dark room with our finger on a piece of plastic.
And nothing moved, did it?
Literally nothing moved.
I know something that moved.
Nothing was scary. Nothing was weird. We asked the questions. We did that whole thing. But, I mean, I guess if you want it to work, you've got to believe that it's going to work. And all three of us were just sitting here going like, move, bitch. Like it was. Yeah.
It's one of those things that hinders on, well, if your belief isn't strong enough, of course it won't happen.
Yeah.
Well, that just means it won't happen.
Possibly. I don't know. But there are lots and lots and lots of anecdotal evidence and just people having experiences with these things that are really interesting. That's some of my favorite genre of creepypasta. Have you ever heard about the demon that haunts Ouija boards?
No. I surely have not.
His name is Zozo, and apparently you're not supposed to say his name because it attracts him to you.
I just thought about something.
What?
How much did you watch Futurama growing up?
A lot.
Okay. Do you know the one where
Pazuzu?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You said it's Zozo. I could just see me on a Ouija board going, Pazuzu!
Now, Pazuzu is actually a name of a demon as well, and you're not supposed to say that either, but...
Too bad.
Well, there you go. We have an extra cursed podcast coming at you.
Oh, God.
But yeah, this demon is supposed to be one of those things that... like pretends to be your dead relative that you're trying to contact, but then like it'll be weird, and eventually the board will just go back and forth to the Z and the O, just spelling its name out over and over again.
It's just spelling
creepy. Oz. Oz, 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 Oz. Yeah, it's one of the better creepypastas that I've listened to. It's really fun, and lots of people have, you know, their stories about having been contacted by Zozo through these boards. Yeah. And another thing, I was listening to another podcast that deals with just kooky topics and stuff like that, and they were talking about how this one lady believes that she talks to aliens with her spirit board, her talking board, so that angels and aliens are channeled through her into the board, and the board will.
This is a real thing? Out. Like the lady is... This isn't a story, right?
No, this is a person that was being interviewed on a podcast talking about her experience as a channeler, and her tool of preference is a Ouija board. And she believes that she is channeling otherworldly beings in various varieties. Yeah. Well, so it can also be a tool of extraterrestrial communication.
I don't think it can, Leah. That's music, as Close Encounters taught us. It's not a fucking Ouija board that you can buy at the store. Come on. Is that it? You're being very quiet.
No, I'm just amused by the fact that you're annoyed at it.
I'm not necessarily annoyed. I'm just like, lady, just see a psychiatrist one time. You will probably be better off for it.
I mean, maybe she does channel aliens with her.
No, Leah, she doesn't.
I'm trying to be open-minded, Mitchell.
Well, no. Right now, cut it out.
Anyway, so, yeah, Ouija boards. I want to know if you have had an experience with one. Was it good? Was it bad? A lot of science has been done about this particular phenomenon, which is weird to me because don't you have better things to do with your time, science? But apparently this has been studied quite a bit. And basically most of the people that have done research on this topic believe that what's actually going on is that people legitimately are not consciously moving the planchette unless someone is. Now, obviously, you'll be in a room with someone, and if it's moving all over the place, you've got Chad over in the corner just like twitching it around. Always Chad. Mm-hmm. Unless it's Ethan. Occasionally it's Ethan. But most of the time, it's Chad. But basically, they believe that if people are all going into it, you know, with a normal, like, intentionally trying to be real about this thing, something happens called the ideomotor effect. Oh. And it basically is that there are micro movements that happen all of the time with your hand between your brain and your arm. Yes. And basically, you are subconsciously thinking something, and you don't realize that you're causing your arm to move because it's at that level that is not functioning. And generally when you do a Ouija board situation, ceremony kind of thing, it's dim lighting, it's you've kind of gotten yourself into like a mood, you know what I mean, to be a little bit more susceptible to stuff like that. And just there is a scientifically observable effect called the ideomotor effect that can cause, you know, people's arms and stuff to twitch. And
I did something like that in elementary school, I think. I don't know what it was. We just did this little exercise where you put a washer on the end of a string and put it in your hand. The string's like 6 inches long, and you support the elbow and you hold your arm up. And you just hold it still, but with your eyes, you move it back and forth. And eventually the washer starts moving back and forth because you're actually rocking, but you're not feeling yourself rocking.
Yeah,
you know?
That's the exact same type of phenomenon that they believe is responsible for, you know, that type of phenomenon. But a lot of people that are believers in that phenomenon will point to the fact that a lot of people that are supposed to be channelers with a board or whatever will be completely blindfolded when they do these when they do sessions and stuff like that. Okay. And someone else will be scribing down the letters and stuff like that. So their argument is, how could it be the ideomotor effect when they're not even seeing where the letters are going to? To which I would say they're using the same board over and over and over again, and I can type without looking at it. Eventually, I feel like you would learn where the letters are just by distance and feel.
Yeah. And my thought on a Ouija board has always been, how do you know where it stops? Because every time I've seen someone use them, they're just moving. Like, they don't really stop, you know? So if they're blindfolded and they're moving them and somebody's sitting there scribing them down, the person writing it down is just making something up too. Because they see them go over all these letters. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's what I have to say. Fuck
like
it.
I said, I've never been involved in an actually, I've never been a part, I've never done any other Ouija session other than that one with those other two sisters in a dorm room laughing our asses off. Like, that is the only time I've ever had an experience with a Ouija board. So, like I said, if anybody does have stories or experiences, I'd really love to read them at the beginning of next Midweek Mini. So if you will please email me those stories, that would be absolutely wonderful. Have you experienced something weird? Were you growing up in a home where you were absolutely not allowed to have one in your home at all, period? Yeah, just tell me some interesting things about Ouija boards, and I would like to share it with everybody else.
No. Well, I would like to hear about it too. And y'all can just find out what we're going to talk about next week when you tune in.
Yep.
Because honestly, we don't have anything planned. We don't have a schedule, but we do have some ideas of what we're going to talk about for the next few weeks.
I have an absurd amount of ideas.
There you go. There it is, y'all.
Because, once again, things just sort of run through my head sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Like the way that people's houses smell. It's interesting, isn't it?
That's more of a you thing, sweetie. Yeah. I can barely smell in the first place, so...
Maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. Different house smells.
Anosmia.
Yeah. Okay, whatever that means, moving on.
It means that you've lost your sense of smell.
No. Well, I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
It's the dog's faults.
No, it's definitely the cat's fault.
It's the animal's faults. All right, y'all. Well, y'all tune in this weekend for the main release and see what we talk about next Wednesday. We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.